Issues pertaining to the GoldBod, the Bank of Ghana, and the funded FX forward sale. I'm delighted that the IMF has brought this to the fore in its Article 4 consultation, the recent one that they issued in August. And according to the IMF, it says that the domestic gold purchase program recorded losses to the tune of $1.7 billion US dollars. But if you would recall, the Bank of Ghana in their 2025 financial statement reported $214 million US dollars as the loss. This loss of 1.7 billion is equivalent to 22 billion Ghana cedis, and that is 1.5% of our GDP. And this same 22 billion Ghana cedis was the amount that was used to salvage the banks, the customers, the 1.2 million depositors who had lost their funds as a result of the banking issues. So clearly, you see the quantum of monies that are going waste. 22 billion Ghana cedis loss. And this same equivalent of 22 billion was used to save 1.2 million depositors. So that is why we are concerned. That is why we are talking about it, that just one entity using 22.5 billion as a loss. The Minister of Health is complaining about the fact that he needs 6 billion Ghana cedis to recruit nurses. And here we are, 22 billion Ghana cedis going down the drain, when we could have used that amount of money to support the recruitment exercise at the Ministry of Health to enable the many nurses who are currently at home, to enable them to be employed. And for this one, it's going to be a win-win. The 22 billion, government is not going to recover. But if they had spent 6 billion out of the 22 billion, you will employ the nurses, unemployment rates will come down, and these same nurses will help you generate more revenue because they are going to pay income taxes. So this is where our concern is, and this is where we are coming from. 22 billion Ghana cedis going down the drain, when just a fraction of it could have been used to support the Ministry of Health to recruit the number of nurses they are talking about. Another issue is this. BOG recorded 214 million US dollars as the loss. IMF comes. IMF is privy to all the data and everything and says, no, the loss is not $214 million as you recorded, but $1.7 billion. I'm asking, the accounting firm that audited Bank of Ghana, I want to hear from them on this. Because, so how did they treat the difference of close to 1.4 billion? How was it treated? That it cannot be seen in their financial statement for BOG to declare that they only made a loss of 214 million Ghana cedis. And then the IMF comes and says, no, that loss on GoldBod is 1.7 billion. So I'm also calling out the accounting firm that audited Bank of Ghana. They should come clean. We want to hear from them. We need an explanation of how they treated the difference of 1.4 billion. That is very, very important because here their credibility is at stake. And when you look at what attributed to the losses, I find it a bit hard to believe, but clearly that is what happened. Let me state that IMF said that these are Asare fees paid to the GoldBod. They pay fees and then we end up making a loss of 1.7 billion. These are discounts applied to gold sold to the off-takers. Even the small gold sellers around, they don't sell gold and make losses. Yet we give off-takers discounts. I don't understand. We are expecting GoldBod not to insult, elevate the conversation, give us explanation, because it's of concern to everybody. If you can make a loss of 22 billion, when 6 billion of that loss can be used to employ more than 10,000 nurses, clearly you have a case to tell the people of Ghana, respectfully. And as a result of this, we all know that the negative position of BOG increased from 58 billion to 93 billion. A huge gap, close to about 40 billion. And all government could do in the mid-year budget was to give them a paltry sum of 5 billion Ghana cedis. You ask yourself, you give Bank of Ghana that you have helped to make a loss of close to 40 billion, just 5 billion. And then 2 working days before the financial year ends, you give one entity, not an entity that takes care of our money, not an entity that cuts across. You give that entity 4.5 billion Ghana cedis. You ask yourself, all the ministries, departments, and agencies, ask them if the budget that was voted for them for Parliament for the year 2025, if they had 100% of their budget. No ministry, not even ministries that are pursuing government policy. It didn't happen. You ask Free SHS, you ask Ministry of Agric, you ask Ministry of Roads, you ask Ministry of Interior. They are all managing very important government policies. You ask them whether their budget, their full budget, was given to them at the end of 2025, let alone just 48 hours to the end of the year. It's never happened. And so if we are, GoldBod is happy saying that, they made a profit of 909 million Ghana cedis. We all should be thinking, if that money wasn't given at the dawn of time, the huge losses GoldBod would have been making, coupled with the huge loss the Bank of Ghana has already incurred on their behalf. President Mahama, we are asking you to call for proper and further investigations into what is happening at GoldBod. I am temporarily relieved that at least Bank of Ghana from 1st of July 2026 is no more spending on GoldBod as it used to be. But then, the program that GoldBod is implementing now ought to be brought to Parliament, because Parliament approved their budget. It ought to be brought to Parliament. It's an entity where government also spends money, and that is why the Auditor General audits them. They ought to bring the program to Parliament to see whether they will be implementing the program as they have stated. And then from time to time, they also need to report how far they have come to Parliament. It is not a few times you just, we implemented this and we have made a profit of this, a profit of that. You ask yourself, so if you could make a profit of the 75 million Ghana cedis that you are talking about, why do you allow Bank of Ghana to incur a loss of 22 billion Ghana cedis on your behalf? Clearly, we ought to look into this. This is not about GoldBod coming out with insults. We want them to elevate the discussion. Tell us their side of the story. The insults will not let the $1.7 billion loss go away. It will not let it go away. Rather, it will tell on you the kind of leader you are. Come forth. Tell us if there's something, some support that government needs to, come up with to help you manage the place to make profits throughout the year. You should let us know. But so we expect the conversation to be elevated. We expect some transparency. We expect some accountability. And not contradiction in numbers as is being put out there. So, President Mahama, somewhere last year, you engaged the SOEs, and then you mentioned that SOEs that are not making profit or SOEs that are not thriving, you either close them down or you merge them. So we want you to walk the talk. Look into GoldBod. Look into the losses that they have incurred so far and see how best you can salvage the situation. We want you to walk the talk and help save the little resources that we have. Already, you've introduced more than 8 new taxes and it's still not yielding the revenue numbers that you want. So if there's an opportunity to save some money and use it in other equally important places, we are all for it. And we ask that you do so. Thank you.